Another oldish match here, this one in a T-44, platooned up with Deutsch Nozzle, also in a T-44. We ended up as top tier on Northwest. Not the best map to be on, but being top tier is appreciated. The match is a bit of rainbow skittles, with our team being more varied than the enemy team. My usual move with mediums here, particularly Soviet mediums, is to cut across the C line road and try and get into the position at the bottom of the ramp at B2, which cuts off the enemy mediums pushing up the 2 line and also gives you some decent territory to hold. If you can control that ramp early game, then the enemy team won't really be able to do much on the northwest corner, which is kind of pivotal, hence the name of the map. Deutsch Nozzle follows along on the upper ridge with the T-69 to provide cover. So we got a customer here, a lone T-34 85. I can bully him pretty confidently, so I stay down in this little area of the gully here and just deal with him. I should also note I was having connection issues during this match, so it will be a bit jittery. There's nothing I can really do about that. Deutsch Nozzle manages to light the T-34 up and take him out, which is good. And so I back up the ramp. Now I'm backing up the ramp rather than just turning around and driving towards it because I don't know what else is down there. I have a fair idea there's nothing there, but I just want to make sure. Now we control the ramp, we control basically the north of the map. Deutsch Nozzle and the T-69 come across to support me. Now I spot the ISU here and for a moment I'm worried, but then I quickly realised the outline of his tank was too long to be the 152mm gun or the BL-10 since it has a big muzzle brake on it. The BL-10 has a muzzle brake, but it's much slimmer profile. So he's got a 122mm gun. You can see that little hole you can just make out in the end of it, and also the different type of mantle. So when you see that model on the ISU, you know you're fairly safe to just sit in front of them and put shots through them. The 122 does hurt, but not nearly enough to be concerning. Our A-20 runs ahead, it's a shell for it, but we push up on this flank. It looks like the T-29 is the only thing they've actually sent to guard it. The majority of the enemy team is pushed through south and mid, mostly south, which if you've seen my other videos on this map you'll know that's a bad idea, it doesn't work. Especially that lower south area that they recently added, the area down around H9. Once you go down there you can't really get out. It's suicide basically. Just throwing the tank away for no gain. With the T-29 dealt with, we push into the enemy base, looking to kill those 2 arty. One is lit already. Okay, nice little snap moving shot into him as the T-21 misses me. He backs up behind a rock. Now, I didn't want to push all the way in because it was obvious he was trying to set up for a shotgun. It's such an obvious telegraphed attack, there was no way I was going to drive in there. So instead I turn around, run downhill and deal with the T-21. He gets conveniently tracked and then broadsided by an angry T-44. Not a good situation for a light tank to be in. The Su-14 is relit, and Deutsch Nozzle is able to get a shot into him. And then as I push down, the Marine is spotted. I'm looking for a shot on him, but it's difficult to get one over the railway embankment. That one, I think, hit his gun barrel and didn't do any damage. Or it may have skipped off the very top of his armour. That shot unfortunately missed, because I was having issues with packet loss this match. And then I got a bit worried when I saw this guy come in. Full health Löwe is not very nice to deal with in a T-44. Particularly one who's shooting gold. He doesn't need to shoot gold because he has, I think, the best pen out of nearly any tier 8 heavy tank. and the T-44 isn't exactly well armoured. At least not anymore. Power creep's caught it up, but his gold firing isn't helping him any as he gets swarmed by 3 Tier 8 mediums and just taken apart. I head down here, thinking I might catch the T-34 unawares. Instead, I drive in front of him, thankfully only a tracking shot. I was going to say hit and changed to shot mid-word with interesting consequences. Speaking of shitting though, that's what's about to happen to this IS-3. Complete snapshot. Goes straight through his lower plate. That was complete bullshit. I would be really mad if I was him. It's not enough to stop the T-34 from pushing me though, and that he does. Finishes me off. I've done 2.7, nearly 2.8k damage, but Deutsch Nozzle is still in the game. Watch our T-69's suicide in a retarded fashion here. Just threw away all his hit points in less than 10 seconds, less than 5 seconds in fact. But it's okay, because Deutsch Nozzle is still up. Quickly skipped spectate our tanks around Cap just to make sure they're going to be able to get the resets in. They are. So it was looking pretty dire before, but having seen the situation here, I'm fairly confident we can win it. Deutsch Nozzle picks up his top gun there on the T-34, and then our guys defending base start cleaning up the last of those little low tier tanks up there. And with one final carousel move, that's the end of the match. 7 kills for Deutsch Nozzle. 1 kill for me, and I think we both did within about 100 damage of each other, both about 2.7k damage, so it was a pretty good match. I was quite happy with it, and we'd had a fairly shitty day of things, so it was a good way to wrap it up. T-44s aren't as strong as they used to be, but they're still a good flexible tier 8 medium tank. You can use them to scout quite well because they've got decent camo and are quite mobile. Quite often I use mine as a passive scout in higher tier games, or as an active scout even, but they are also fully capable of putting a gun to use, and when they're top tier like that, they're quite strong. What they lack in armour and gun power, they make up for in mobility and decent gun handling, actually. Quite decent for a Soviet medium tank at that tier. And it only gets better once you get up to the T-54. Perhaps not the monster it once was back in the beta days, where they used to warp around the place because of the shitty netcode and you couldn't hit the damn things, but still a fun tank to have. Still, I think, one of the nicest looking tanks in the game, actually. The sort of fusion of a modern tank hull and a World War II tank turret is strangely quite impressive. And just fun to play. It's a good tank to really hone your skills on because it's strong without being too strong, if that makes much sense. It's a lot like the Panzer III in that regard. It's very good when it's used well, but you have to really know what you're doing to use it well. So if you're good at a T-44, you're going to be good at virtually any high tier medium tank. Same as if you're good at a Panzer III, you're going to be good at any medium tank, basically. I think I have mentioned this before in one or two of my videos, but I think that there are certain tanks in the game that you can really sort of identify as not so much training tanks, but tanks that really are almost a litmus test of whether you're going to do well with something. And I think for medium tanks, the Panzer III and the T-44 are two of them. If you do well in those two tanks, you probably are going to do well in any medium tank, barring weirdo exception mediums, like the Object 416 or the Centurion, although even in both of those cases, I mean, I do well in them and I do well in this and well in the Panzer III, so I don't know. I'm not as good at the T-44 and the Panzer III as I am in my other mediums, but the difference is mostly I've been playing both of them since very early after the game's release. In fact, the T-44 was the second tier 8 I got after beta finished. The first being the Panther, which back then was still a tier 8 tank. the Panzer III, obviously I've had for even longer. So I had pretty shitty stats in them to start with, because I used to play them a lot when I was bad at the game, but they're really improving quite a bit. Although my average damage on my T-44 is actually falling, because I use it more to spot now than shoot, which is, you know, pretty legit use of a T-44. It's good at it, so why not? Anyway, on that note, I've got a couple more videos from 9.0, which need to be rendered and uploaded after this one. Probably about 5 or 6 more. And then I think I got about 4 or 5 from the first iteration of 9.1 test. And then after that I'll be caught up, and I don't know whether or not I upload more. It depends on what happens, really. I haven't been playing tanks so much lately. I've been mostly playing Space Engineers and getting project work done. So we'll see how we go. But I think I'm kind of overdoing it with the tanks video, so I've got to dial it back a bit, try and pick out games which really do stand out. This one, though, I think was just a lot of fun, in that we had 2 of the same type of tank working together in pretty much perfect harmony, and that's always a nice thing to see.